Auburn's next can't-miss transfer target? It's Larry Nixon.
Freezing temperatures are likely for several hours inland and a few hours closer to the coast.
Yes.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much to all the everydayers that make Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. And joining me as he does every single Tuesday, Charlie 5. Happy Charlie Tuesday to everyone who celebrates. He, of course, is the message board legend. Charlie 5, there's been several guys throughout this offseason that we've kind of circled through the transfer portal and said, hey, we got to land this guy. Hugh Freeze and this Auburn coaching staff, they've got to go out, do whatever it needs, make whatever pitch you need to, whether it's playing time or the fact, Auburn is Auburn and Auburn sells itself, NIL, whatever it may be. They've had to go out and get him. The next guy, I think, we're at the point, and you've been a big fan of this guy before. Auburn even was probably pursuing him. Larry Nixon, the linebacker from North Texas. And I think he's the next guy that Auburn fans need to circle and pay attention to because I think this staff wants him and they need to add him to the roster.
You may not have to wait very long because I think he's supposed to announce today
we'll see.
on a Tuesday. So I think it's down between like us and Miami and maybe a couple other places. But I think we've, like you said, we targeted this guy. I mentioned him earlier in a couple shows but it was my internet was so bad you probably didn't catch his name fully or like my description of him.
Sure,
but he's a studly middle linebacker, and that's one of the positions that the room was very, very thin. And when you go to this type of lineup where you want different types of playmakers at linebacker, you had to start adding guys, and he could be the next piece to the puzzle. That was another position where during the spring, it never really felt like there was a solidified like starting 2 or 3. Like it was always rotating in and out. So maybe they haven't 100% solved that depth chart yet. And maybe this guy who has a beautiful 1-to-1 tackle to assisted tackle ratio, which I love as a middle linebacker. I don't like I don't like guys that just jump on piles. I want to see solo, meet you in the hole, and take you down linebackers, and that's what this guy is.
Yeah, he's got 51 solo tackles, 54 assisted, which is not
quite 1-to-1, but it's very close.
You're not going to see it much closer for middle linebackers. Goodness gracious. And that's according to North Texas's stats. But 6'2", 236, a thicker linebacker, but I think you kind of need that with the way you're going to kind of see a lot of these other linebackers be a little bit more athletic. And so, you saw Austin Keys, the Ole Miss transfer. He seems like he's the number 1 linebacker in the room right now. It seems like it as we kind of look back at A-Day and look back at spring practice. And the number 2 guy, it seems like it's Wesley Steiner, I guess, because that's just who we saw next to Keys most of the time. But Larry Nixon could come in and be that dude. He's got the experience. He's been playing college football for forever. Since 2018,
I think he's a doctor by now. No, this will be his 5th year.
Yeah, he got redshirted in 2018. Yeah, so he's been playing college football for a minute, and so I guess this would be his COVID year. So you got to think he'd be able to pick up Ron Roberts' defense fairly quickly, and just kind of be a guy that can be an upperclassman in this room that may need it. We'll certainly see how much Keys and, DeMario Tolan. I think DeMario Tolan's older than he actually is when we talk about the linebacker room just because he's a transfer. But, he'd bring experience to this room, and I think it'd be a huge add, and he's got a chance to start if he comes, Charlie 5.
We talked a lot about linebackers the way we talk about our wide receivers. I feel like we got a lot of solid, like a lot of number 2 guys, but we may not have had that guy that steps up and he's your dude in the middle that you can always depend on. And I'm not saying we don't have that guy on the roster, but I just don't know that he's shown himself yet. If that makes sense. We got like a lot of 2A.
Who could be a candidate? Who could be a candidate for that?
Right. So, I feel like just from the chatter and whatnot from the spring, somebody like Austin Keys is one of the newer guys that has been consistently named. Could it be a Wesley Steiner or Cam Riley? We didn't hear a ton from DeMario Tolan. Robert Woodyard is somebody that sort of started to blossom a little bit, and he's a big, thick guy too. But it's a lot of guys that you just don't necessarily see them right now as your number one alpha middle linebacker that sets the whole tone for the whole defense. And maybe this Nixon guy can either be it or push one of those guys to become that guy. So I just think it's a perfect ad.
Is there Larry Nixon III just decking a dude over the middle? What else do you want for Auburn football right now?
I mean, he's come a long way since Watergate. I'm kidding, but
wow, how about that?
No, he's done. He's had a great 4 years in college. I like the name, and he's the third. That I like. Anytime there's like the third of somebody, like third time's a charm. I mean, there's so many things you can go with there.
I love a good trilogy. Love a good trilogy.
Yeah, exactly.
Larry Nixon III just decking a dude. I'm all about it. And I think you could bring him in with the maybe he's the one guy, like maybe he's the top linebacker. I don't think he will be, just due to the timing and all of this and the athleticism of. I mean, I heard nothing but good things about Austin Keys the second half of spring. I think it took him a second to get going, but the second half of spring, you heard that about a lot. And Hugh Freeze talked about that during spring at one of his press conferences. I think it was like week 3 or week 4. Where he said the linebacker room got better, which is great. That's exciting. And I think you saw that with Woodyard. I think you saw that with Keys. I don't know how you couldn't see it with Steiner. The fact that Steiner was like in the conversation to be a starter after what we saw him do the last 2 seasons at Auburn, like good for him, because like he's got the tools and the traits. It's just he didn't look good playing linebacker, and all of a sudden he's looking a lot better. He looks like an SEC linebacker now, which is great. So if Larry Nixon can come in and play or elevate the guys around him, I think that'd be huge. So you mentioned it a second ago, Charlie 5, but Larry Nixon, I think, is the next guy to watch for Auburn fans.
Absolutely. And maybe, I know we'll talk about this a little later, maybe it'll be a little package deal from North Texas. So
I've always thought North Texas could be a good farm team for us.
Oh yeah. Huge. Yeah. If you can get the Mean Green, if you can get anyone from the Mean Green, you're doing good.
Yeah, sure. Right. That's what I've always.
No, but like I like this part of this part of the portal. Like you got guys that have performed at a high level at a lower conference.
People's talented players. I'm with you.
Yes,
I think it's great.
Yes, but I mean, like leveling up. Like he wants to go play on a bigger stage. That's the part I really like. I really like about the portal.
He's gonna transfer here and be Larry Nixon IV, is what you're saying.
Yes. Clone himself.
That's right. All right. Hugh Freeze spoke to media last week, Charlie 5, and he kind of gave a little bit of a wish list. And I want to talk about why this is important in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Built. If you're looking for a delicious snack and you don't want all the sugar and calories, because why would you want those things? You need to try the best tasting protein bar ever. Built. You got to try. They have Built bars. They have Built puffs. I like the puffs more because I like marshmallows. They're delicious. But all of these bars are covered 100% in delicious, decadent chocolate, 100% real, delicious, decadent chocolate with all kinds of different flavors, cookies and cream, churro, peanut butter brownie. And you used to have to go to built.com to order them, and you still can do that and use promo code LOCKEDON15, LOCKEDON 15 for 15% off your order. Or you can go to Walmart or your local Sam's Club if you're a member of the club, and several other local grocery stores. It is an elite club. Good for you if you have the status to hang out with Sam. Very, very cool stuff. So head over to built.com or your local grocery store to check out our friends at Built.
You get 1 ton of Built bars at Sam's Club. 1 whole ton of them.
1 ton. 1 ton. Delicious, decadent chocolate.
So much decadence.
Yes. So when you look at what Hugh Freeze said to the media last week at the Regions Golf Tournament, he was asked about the portal, and he hasn't been shy about it, right? I think we're all thinking about the fact he's like, maybe a quarterback we want to enter the portal in a few days. And of course,
tomorrow. And then it's like, hey,
I was like, oh, he talked about this yesterday. He
was a secret. Keep it a secret, bro.
Yeah, it's like he wasn't. It's like, okay, Hugh, maybe hide it a little bit more, but okay, whatever. Like you're not breaking any rules.
Maybe in the coming days, not like literally tomorrow, and then it happens with the kid from Nebraska, Casey Thompson.
Yeah, it's like maybe there may be a guy that either Friday or maybe even Sunday afternoon. I don't know. It's like, what?
Sunday
and then Monday
morning
rolls around. He's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
So anyway, when he talks about this, he's been like maybe a little too honest, which is great. And so he's like, I would like a receiver or maybe two, a linebacker, which we think will be Larry Nixon III. And then he also mentioned possibly a safety and an edge rusher. So we've talked about the linebacker situation with Larry Nixon III. So we'll kind of scoot that to the side. And we'll come to the receivers in a second because we've talked about them the most. But the safety situation is interesting because that's a position group that we've all been told about to kind of keep an eye out for ever since the second portal window opened. And every time a solid safety enters, like the kid from Louisiana a week or so ago, it's like, check out this guy. It doesn't ever really seem like Auburn's pursuing any of these safeties that kind of pass the eye test and have a decent resume. So I don't know if safety is a thing, but the fact that Hugh Freeze said it, it's like, okay, we're not making this up. Like we're not making up the fact that like a safety would make sense here.
Oh, you got to write it down because I mean he's definitely showing his cards. Like he's tipping his hand. But yeah, like it seems like everyone it's sort of that's popped in. It's sort of materialized a little bit and then just completely faded away. Like the Louisiana kid, he popped up. Oh, this has got to be it. This has got to be the one. And then it just kind of faded. And I don't necessarily think one thing I've learned along as the portal has grown is like not every person that enters the portal is a target. Like it's just not like it from timing. There's just no way they can know everybody that's going to go in and have had time to scout everybody that's gone in. So we jump on it. And so that makes us think, oh, we missed out on it or whatever, and the fact is whoever it is that's entered it just may not be because we haven't pursued anybody. I don't even think anyone's visited. I don't even think we've had a safety visit that's of note that I can remember. So
if they did, they kept it on the DL. Yeah.
So either we're just not going to add one, which I don't think is the end of the world, or there's, somebody in the works that is in the portal that we don't know about, or there could be a grad transfer that does not necessarily have to be in the portal. So it's just, it's a total wait and see on that. I mean, but you can't just write it off and say, oh, he was just, spouting it off because he's just about told us every position we're going to add.
Yeah, it's like, well, who are all these guys? When are they coming? Hugh? When are they going to be here?
So that was last Wednesday. He said linebacker, and then we have the linebacker, hopefully that we land today that's committing. You got two receivers. You already have Caleb Britton. Now, I think that's interesting because he said two after.
This was after Caleb Britton.
After Caleb Britton had committed. So we're looking to add at least, 1 to 2 more, on top of that. And
who do you think the receivers are? You think Shorter is one of them? North Texas is our farm team?
Shorter's probably a safe bet since we have the Mean Green farm team. I just made that up just now.
I love that. Put it on a T-shirt.
Put it on a T-shirt. Jalen Short or Jair Shorter. Is that how you say his name? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Deep threat. We've talked about him. Deep threat. He had like 23 catches and 11 of them were touchdowns last year. I mean, something that we haven't really had. And then I think a name to probably watch. His first name is escaping me, but his last name's Hooks from Jackson State.
State. Mm-hmm.
It's Shane Hooks from Jackson State. He's 6'5", 200. He was committed to Ole Miss at one time. I think he either backed off or they had a mutual sort of parting of ways. 6'5",
with Deion.
Yeah, he did not follow Deion to Colorado. Mm-hmm. I think he's probably a little bit better than that level of competition. 64 catches, 750 yards, 10 touchdowns. I don't know. Could be one to watch.
Take that in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Not going to be somebody that's just going to burn dudes deep and stuff like that. Probably a bigger possession receiver, but great catch radius. Yeah. Back shoulder guy. I mean, he's unbelievable ball skills. So, I think those two might be the ones to watch. I'm not so sure that the kid from Colorado. I think it's a big ask for a kid from like, is it Inglewood, somewhere in California, to come all the way to Auburn, Alabama, when schools like Cal or Arizona or Arizona State have opportunities to play and kind of stay closer to home. So one or two of those guys, or maybe somebody that, that may be trying to keep under wraps a little bit. I don't know who that would be, but they've been doing that, so, and doing it well.
I can't wait to see all of these guys that joined this late in the process, how quickly can a wide receiver pick up this offense and be installed into all of it.
Yeah.
Because there's not a guy maybe shorter, maybe that there's not a guy though in this window that's just so much more talented than the guys already on the roster. There's guys that may have more experience than some of the guys on the roster, but is Jair Shorter so much better than Javarius Johnson? I don't think so. I don't know. He's done it.
Right.
At a lower level of competition. So we'll see, but is he a guaranteed starter type situation? I genuinely don't know the answer to that. That's going to be a fun part of this process that we're all going to get to learn and see together.
And on top of that so today is May 16th. I think classes start tomorrow. And I believe I've seen where that receivers were reporting early, or were asked to kind of report early. That way you could go ahead and start working with Payton Thorne and the quarterbacks to be throwing and building that chemistry. So if you're not here pretty quickly, you're looking at the second mini semester, which is the second half of June. How hard is it going to be in that short period of time to be able to build it up? So something's got to happen pretty quick. So I wouldn't be surprised if some fireworks don't start popping off over the next couple of days.
Did you ever take a mini semester?
Yes.
Over the summer at Auburn?
It was
awful.
Terrible. Worst mistake.
It's the worst. I'm this is going to be great. I'm just going to get it over with. No, that month and a half just drags on and on and on. It's brutal.
No, I took
all
20
the kids
hours
starting
one
classes.
I took 20
hours once.
Yeah.
I did 12 once, and I hated it. It was
it
was to graduate, but
it was 8
gracious.
to 8. It was 8 to 8 for a whole summer. It was awful.
Yeah, that's tough. It's tough. Okay, the last item on Hugh Freeze's wish list, and also how can McLeod impact this pass rush in 2023? All that and more coming up right here on Locked On Auburn. I want to encourage you to join the Locked On Auburn Discord. It is free. All you have to do is click the link in the episode description down below. The last item was another pass rusher, Charlie 5, that Jack linebacker position. They've already added Jaden McLeod, which we'll talk about in a minute. Is there another guy that you could think, okay, this would make sense? Ukwu, his name has been kind of big. And then we heard that okay, maybe it's not. And then his name's kind of reemerged. What's the latest you've heard with him?
Yeah, I think the common thread with him is probably leaning towards Ole Miss. And then I don't know, something's happened recently. They're out of it. And it seems like it's sort of like an Auburn Missouri battle, but maybe the depth chart at Missouri looks a little bit better than Auburn. I think this one's going to be a battle to the end. I'm not sure that it's so much of. I think this is a business decision for him. So where can I go? I got 1 year to just really ball out. He's a stud. I would think he would be able to find the field, but you got McLeod and you got Falk, who's ripping people's heads off to compete with. I don't really know what the depth chart is at Missouri, but maybe we'll have to see how that plays out. But I definitely think that's who Hugh's talking about when he says,
I do too.
When he's talking about adding one more edge. So that would be one that would probably be disappointing if he were to choose Missouri.
I think we're going to see Falk more at defensive end than Jack now, actually.
I think you can put him at either. Whatever the formation or the whatever it calls for, and especially now when you add McLeod as a specialist pass rusher, I'm with you. I think he could play. He could play both. But I'm
idea of keeping McLeod in at Jack, Keldrick at defensive end, you slide Marcus Harris in to play the 3 technique in a pass rushing situation.
Yes,
that gets me feeling a certain way.
Oh yeah. For sure.
Just being honest with you. Being honest with you. How many sacks can McLeod get in 2023? That was the last question Hugh Freeze was asked last week, was about, how can McLeod, how big of an impact can he have? And he thinks he's an elite pass rusher, essentially, is what he said, which I think that's his role. I don't think with his size, you can ask him to do anything other than rush the passer.
Exactly. And it's like you almost knew what I was going to say. So I'm so glad you said this, talked about size, because I've heard this. He's too small to play jack, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So I just was curious. I went to look at the stat leaders in the NFL. Do you know the number two in sacks in the NFL is? Little quiz.
Matt Judon.
Last year it was Hassan Reddick. Okay.
Oh.
Hassan Reddick, you know what size he is?
No.
6'1", 230 for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Hassan Reddick's also like a middle linebacker, isn't he?
He may be. He is listed as a linebacker, but
that could mean anything, though. Yeah,
that could mean anything. I say all that to say that size, you can get if you can get to the quarterback. You can get to the quarterback. You don't necessarily have to be 6'5", 250, 260. McLeod has elite speed at that size. I really think this could be a dimension of pass rush that we have not really had. Maybe D Ford was a speed guy off the edge, but even I know he went first round and everything, but this guy could be like, I'm not saying he could be a first round guy, but this is like a speed element that I can't really remember.
His first step's great, you know, but that's kind of it. Like, I think that's kind of his tool belt. And so, I mean, that's enough to some extent.
I don't know that we really want much more. You know what I mean?
I think you want hands. I mean, you know, I'd like him to use his hands a little bit more, but, you know, maybe that can be coached into him over the summer, right? You know, we'll see. I mean, that was kind of, I went on Locked On Seahawks and they were like, what's Derek Hall like gotten better at Auburn? And it's like his hands, probably. So maybe that can happen with McLeod as well. And I've seen a couple people compare him, since he's a smaller guy, to Jeff Holland. And Jeff Holland weighed 255 when he was here. And
he had super long, he was super long, even though he was, he was only 6'2" or 6'3". He was super long, super long arms and whatnot.
Yeah. And I mean, he looked tiny, but like he was 255. I don't know if he wore like smaller pads or something. I have no clue. But it's like that guy doesn't look 250, but he was. So it's a little different. But all in all, like, I think you can play him in passing downs, which is great. That's literally all we needed him for. Like, because I feel good about like the actual defensive line. It's the pass rush. I mean, I said that consistently, and I still am like, I think that's the weakness of this team right now on defense is the pass rush. I feel better about the linebacker situation working itself out because I think the talent's on the roster. The pass rushing situation across 12 games is still my biggest concern on defense.
Exactly. And as things continue to evolve and the more teams you play that sort of spread out and throw it, 35 times a game, like you got to have somebody that can get back there and get after people so that you're able to, create big plays and sacks or force quick throws and things like that. And I'm excited about the dimension of his game that I just don't feel like we've had in a very long time.
Charlie 5, how can people find you, hear you, love you, experience you?
Absolutely. Find me on Twitter at @the_Charlie_5 on the Locked On Auburn Discord every single day. In the Auburn Live, AU Live, the Corner message board, or weekly on the Dad Bod Golf Pod.
Follow me on socials at Zac Blackerby. Find all my written work at auburndaily.com and bravestoday.com. And we'll see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.